Hey team, so today we're checking out the Wisper Wildcat C. C stands for carbon, so this is a full carbon e-bike. Something that was apparent to us quite early on when we first started looking at e-bikes, whether they were coming out with quite entry-level componentry, just to get their price down to get people onto the bikes, whereas this one has got full Shimano componentry. It's got the new Shimano E6000 or E8000 electric motor in it. Now this is my first experience on an e-bike, or on an e-mountain bike at least, and I did take it for a little ride yesterday just to get used to it and see what it was like. But now we need to take it for a proper ride. So we're out here at Woodhill Forest. We're going to take it through the trails, put it through its paces and see what it can and can't do. And I guess ultimately, as much as this will be a review of the Wildcat, it will also be a truth about e-bikes kind of video where I can kind of give you my idea on whether or not e-bikes are cool, if they're a thing that you should look at and all of that sort of jazz. But yeah, let's talk more riding, let's pad up and hit the trails.
Oh no, you do, you just don't like it.
So far, the amount of effort that I've put in to get where we've got thus far has been minimal, and I'm okay with that. I think the biggest thing is it just makes those uphills so much easier. Makes them, like, now that I know how much easier, I feel like I've been more inclined to do it more. But I just cruised up a hill that I would normally walk up at about 18 kilometers an hour. Like if this is how easy this is, that's appealing.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting out, I'm getting some exercise. I'm probably not getting the resistance workout, but I'm definitely getting the cardio workout.
Absolutely.
To a lesser degree, but I'm going to do more of it.
For your average XP riders, you know, cross country boys, mate, that's ample. You know, it's not something you'd be doing 440 hard out, you know.
Well, you wouldn't need it at 440.
No, true.
I tell you, if it's the difference between this and not coming, I'll take this. This is brilliant. We're about halfway through our ride, and I got to say, this bike, it's something. We're I'll put you back on the GoPro, we'll have some fun, and then we'll have a bit of a wrap up back at the car park, or maybe if I'm dead by then, maybe tomorrow. But it's fun. Go, woman! Well, that's about 40k done and dusted through Woodhill Forest. What can we say about the e-bike? It's different. It's a different experience, and I know that there's a lot of naysayers around saying that e-bikes are cheating, stuff like that. I don't think that's entirely fair. I don't think it's entirely unfair, but I think that it's just different. It's like the first thing that you notice as soon as you're going up the hills, getting into the main trails, is that it's a hell of a lot easier to get up the hills, which is great. If you're like me and you're not a big fan of grinding your way up a hill, it makes that a hell of a lot easier. Outside of that, the only time you really notice it is on trails. Like obviously on downhill you don't need it, you don't use it. As far as the bike itself goes, it's a great bike. I mean, it's full carbon fiber, it's a lot of money, it's well over $10,000. But you do get what you pay for. I have noticed there were a few other people out on e-bikes that were of, let's say, lesser quality, or more entry-level bikes, let's say that, it's a bit nicer, that have got crappier componentry, so the brakes weren't as good. Like the brakes on this were really good, and things like that. But it's obviously something that the brands are doing so that people can get on e-bikes and then upgrade them later. I mean, you know, if you want to upgrade your brakes from whatever entry-level brakes that come on the bike and you want to go put on XT, it's $130, it's no big deal. and that would be something I'd recommend doing. As far as me for this bike, I would pretty much, the only stuff I'd do would be change the pedals. I didn't really like the pedals, and I would change the handlebars to something wider with a bit more sweep to them and a little bit more rise. But I was fairly comfortable the whole time. It's a large frame, and I'm 6'2" and 100 and something kilos. There's nothing really I can complain about the bike. The only thing I did notice was that the bottom bracket for me is quite low, and I was smacking the pedals onto roots and rocks and stuff like that quite often, like a lot more than I would normally do. And I'm just putting that down just to the fact, because you're pedaling all the time to keep the momentum, because you've got that extra cadence, you do find that you're quite low and you smack stuff. And it wasn't so bad on berms. And the way down, when we came back down the track, you'll see in the clip, absolutely awesome. It was a very, very nice handling bike. It has got the big 2.4 inch tyres, which I think are running at about 25 psi, a little bit low for trails, like particularly flow trails like that, but I mean, it was fine, it handled, and if you knew that's what you're doing, you just pump tyres up a bit, it's no biggie. As far as the e-bike experience goes, I mean, I had an absolute blast, and there were parts of that trail that there's no way I could have possibly ever done anywhere near as quick as that on a conventional bike. Does that make it cheating? I don't think so. I think it just makes it different. And I probably would. I guess the whole thing is just down to, would you buy one? And for 10 grand, no, I don't want to spend 10 grand on a bike. But if other people that I was planning on riding with on the regular had them, then it would be something more interesting, because you're doing the same thing and you're on the same buzz. If you're not on the same buzz as everyone else, there can be animosity, and and there's always a bit of back and forth and that sort of jazz. But if you're on we did actually meet some people out on the trail who were on e-bikes, and so yeah, they and I just took off, and we had our own little mission, and that was where that bike really started to shine, because you can smash through the trails at high speed like you've never done before, with the same amount of effort that you would have done it at half the speed. That's pretty cool, if that's what you're into. And I guess that's just the entire thing of it. If you believe that a mountain bike is for getting fit and you need to not have the assistance because it's taking away from the work you're doing, it's understandable. That's your prerogative and you're entitled to have it. I don't entirely agree with that. I think the main thing here is that an e-bike is more likely to get certain people. There's going to be a type of person who's going to say, you know what, it's so much hard work going up those hills on a conventional bike, but the e-bike makes going up the hills easier, which makes everything else more worth it. If that suits you, hey, go for it. I'd probably fit into that category too. Even if I had a really nice cross-country bike that was, like a 2x10 or even a 1x11, would I still struggle with the uphills? Of course I would. I'm not fit. And is this a vehicle to get me to being closer to that? No, it's a vehicle going a slightly different direction. But you're running the same trails and you're having the same amount of fun, so realistically, if you're having fun, that's the most important thing, I think. And I had a hell of a lot of fun. I had the most fun on the trails in this forest that I think I've ever had. So I think that's worth something. Actually, if you haven't already, if you're watching this on YouTube and not on the website, head over to the website, because I'll put all the facts and figures and all that jazz and a few more photos and bits and pieces there. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.